The most powerful hurricane to hit Texas in more than 50 years forces thousands to flee their homes. Franchised bus services in the Southern District affected by fallen trees. In Macau, PLA troops returned to barracks after 3 days of disaster relief efforts.
Good evening. Houston, the fourth largest city in the United States, is grappling with a historic flooding disaster. Deadly Hurricane Harvey is now a tropical storm, but it's still dumping so much rain that mass evacuations are now underway amid thousands of dramatic rescues. Sonia Artero reports.
Harvey is earning its reputation as the most powerful hurricane to hit Texas in more than 50 years. A gargantuan rescue effort is now underway in Houston as Harvey's tropical storm status continues to drown the region with incessant rains.
I have deployed 3,000 National Guard members as well as almost 2,000 DPS officers across the endangered regions so that we're going to be able to save Texas lives.
But with emergency responders stretched to the limit, rescuers are using anything that floats to get people to safety.
I seen somebody, they tried to put us on air mattresses. It didn't work. They had to put the babies on air mattresses.
The Houston mayor is under fire for not ordering a mass evacuation earlier. But he defended his decision, saying people risked drowning.
But I want to thank those thousands, in fact, millions of Houstonians who heeded the advice and did not get on the road.
Still, city officials pleaded for the public's assistance with rescues.
And I asked for volunteers to come forward with boats and high water vehicles.
And Houstonians did just that. Rescuers in helicopters are plucking people from flooded neighborhoods around the clock. More catastrophic flooding in Dickinson, Texas. That's where elderly folks at a retirement home were floundering in chest-high waters for hours. When this shocking picture went viral, authorities rushed to rescue them by helicopter. Many are now living on rooftops until they can be rescued. Other Texas residents grappling with widespread destruction include those living in Corpus Christi, Port Lavaca, and Galveston. The catastrophic flooding is now affecting Louisiana as well. Experts say the already record rainfall could reach 50 inches before the storm blows away on Wednesday. The massive flooding along Texas' refinery-rich coast could have far-reaching consequences for the state's oil and gas industry and the larger U.S. economy. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
Well, here in Hong Kong, heavy rain drenched the city this morning after severe tropical storm Picard skirted the territory yesterday. Weather forecasters said there will be more rain in the following few days. Rachel Leung has more.
The city hasn't quite recovered from the damage caused by the two tropical storms in the past 5 days. Collapsed trees can be seen in different parts of town. This forced the closure of some roads in Tai Tam, Sheko and Chateau Kok, leading to the suspension of franchised bus services on a number of routes. The Transport Department said at least 13 bus routes had been affected. While Picard did not cause massive destruction in Hong Kong, it brought along heavy rain. The Hong Kong Observatory issued the amber rainstorm warning at 6:15 this morning. The downpours left roads flooded, disrupting traffic. Areas like Aberdeen and Wong Chuk Kang were waterlogged, leaving residents stranded in waters at knee-high levels. Drivers also had to be extra cautious. The rainstorm warning was cancelled about 2 hours later. The observatory said more rain is coming. An active southerly airstream has brought squally showers to the coast of Guangdong. Hong Kong International Airport is also coping with the aftermath of the tropical storms. As of yesterday, more than 600 flights were delayed or cancelled. The airport authority announced that the 2 runways at Chaklapkog will remain open overnight to handle the backlog of flights. Meanwhile, in Macau, People's Liberation Army troops ended their disaster relief operation and returned to the barracks this morning. Macau officials thanked the troops for their quick and effective work. In the past 3 days, the soldiers took part in cleaning up mounds of stinking rubbish and debris in about 11 areas. This is the first time the Macau government sought help from the PLA Macau garrison since the 1999 handover. Rachel Lang, TVB News.
A firefighter union opened up about increased risks to both rescuers and hikers as more people take alternative hiking routes. Those are routes paved out by hikers that tend to deviate from traditional trails. Elmi Long reports.
When 2 hikers went missing Saturday night, people feared for their safety and that of over 100 firefighters sent searching for them as severe tropical storm Parker approached the territory. Both mainlanders were trapped for about 22 hours before they were carried to safety. During the rescue, a fireman slipped and injured himself. One mountaineer said it's still beyond him why anyone would venture out under heavy rain and storm, especially along a challenging route.
Personally, they got the wrong decision. Most people, they overcome themselves. They didn't know what, their body or experience or equipment can afford to go hiking.
Another problem is the rising popularity of alternative routes that deviate from standard hiking trails. They are sometimes paved out by hikers by removing weed, branches or stones. That makes rescue operations tougher as firemen have to spend longer time in planning and evaluating the best ways to reach those stranded. As Nip Yun Fong, chairman of the Hong Kong Fire Services Department Staffs General Association explains, it often means carrying extra equipment to do their job efficiently. That's in addition to putting rescuers at higher risks in an unfamiliar landscape. Elmi Long, TVB News.
India and China have agreed to an expeditious disengagement of troops in a disputed border area. Soldiers from the 2 sides have been in a standoff there for more than 2 months. The trouble started in June when India sent troops to stop China building a road in the Doklam region. That's an area in the Himalayas close to the borders of China, India, and Bhutan. But China said India had no role to play in the area and insisted it withdraw unilaterally or face the prospect of an escalation. According to a statement from the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, the 2 countries agreed to defuse the crisis following diplomatic talks. In Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying said Indian troops had withdrawn from the area and Chinese troops would continue to patrol the Doklam region.
British police issued a warning after a chemical haze left more than 100 people in the country's south coast suffering from streaming eyes, sore throats and breathing problems. Authorities are working to establish the origin of the mist. The affected area is between the resort town of Eastbourne and Burlingame, a few miles along the coast. Sussex police urged people to keep their doors and windows shut and stay away from beaches on a busy public holiday weekend. The haze seems to have come in from the sea, but the source has not been established. Pollution has been known to drift to Britain from industrial units in France.
8 mountain climbers have died in 3 separate accidents this weekend in the Austrian and Italian Alps. The Austrian Red Cross says 5 German mountain climbers died yesterday in the Austrian Alps east of Innsbruck. A 6th climber was severely injured. The 6 had been roped together in a very remote area of a mountain at an altitude of about 2,000 meters when they fell. 3 Italian mountain climbers also died this weekend, 2 of them on Sunday after falling into a crevasse in the Italian Alps. Another Italian climber died Saturday after being hit by boulders near the border with Switzerland.
Italian police are investigating the suspected gang rape of a Polish tourist and the beating of her partner on Italy's popular Rimini Beach. Local media said the male victim passed out after being beaten on the head and robbed, while his partner was repeatedly raped by 4 men. The attack happened Saturday on a secluded stretch of Rimini Beach. Passers-by called the police after seeing the couple bloodied and dazed. The 26-year-old Poles are now hospitalized with injuries. No word yet if any suspects have been detained.
Egypt's sole source of fresh water is facing unprecedented risks now that Ethiopia is building a massive dam that threatens to trap a quarter of Egypt's water share. That complaint was expressed by Egypt's foreign minister at a press conference in Germany. He insists the $5 billion Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam will strangle Egypt's water supply. At present, Egypt enjoys the lion's share of the Nile. It's around 55 billion cubic meters a year, with more than 60% of the dam construction completed. The countdown heightens Egypt's anxiety. It's a nation of 93 million people who depend on the Nile for water.
Still ahead in the news. Security high in India as a South-styled spiritual...
Welcome back to TVB News. An Indian court has sentenced a self-styled godman to 10 years in jail in a rape case that triggered a deadly riot by his followers last Friday. Indian authorities have deployed thousands of riot police and shut down internet services in 2 northern states to prevent a repeat of last week's riot. Jeff Tang reports.
Security was tight in the northern Indian state of Haryana as Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh was sentenced to 10 years in prison and fined 65,000 rupees. In addition to mobile services being suspended, schools and colleges in the state have also been shut down. Authorities set up a 5-tier cordon around the jail in Rohtak city, 70 kilometers from the capital, New Delhi. That's where Singh, also known as the guru of bling for the clothes he wears in the movies he has starred in, will be incarcerated for raping 2 female followers back in 2002. A special Indian Central Bureau of Investigation court began hearing arguments this afternoon on the level of punishment for his conviction. The prosecution demanded maximum punishment for his conviction, which carries a term from 7 years to life imprisonment. Haryana's state police chief said more than 10,000 police are patrolling the state to prevent riots from breaking out. The town of Sirsa, home to the headquarters of the cult Dera Sasha Sauda, is already under lockdown. Dera officials appealed for peace amid reports that 2 vehicles have been set on fire after the sentence was announced. In neighbouring Punjab, authorities summoned more than 8,000 paramilitary and police, banned large gatherings and switched off mobile internet connection. The 50-year-old Dera leader was found guilty last Friday in the 15-year-old case. Within minutes of the verdict being announced, his followers ran riot and clashed with security forces. The violence left 38 people dead and 250 injured. The case highlights the Indian heartland's fascination with spiritual gurus who enjoy immense political clout for their ability to mobilize millions of followers frustrated by the shortcomings of the state. Jeff Tang, TVB News.
Fresh fighting in Myanmar's Rakhine state has forced thousands of Rohingya Muslims to flee across the border into Bangladesh. More than 100 people have died in the worst fighting to grip the region in 5 years. Just inside the Bangladesh border, Rohingya refugees huddle in fear in makeshift camps after escaping violence in their villages. This woman says her father was killed in the fighting. She doesn't know where her mother and relatives are. Some refugees say Bangladesh border guards have warned them not to help any new arrivals, many of whom have been turned back.
The situation is normal. We say the situation is normal. As you know, that there is a problem in Myanmar. For that, we have sealed our border. There is nothing to be panicked. We are forces enough. Any eventualities we can face.
The escalation in the simmering conflict began last Thursday when a Rohingya insurgent group launched coordinated attacks against 30 police posts and an army base. The insurgents say they were defending communities that had been brutalized by government forces. Similar clashes last October killed 9 police officers and set off months of brutal counterinsurgency operations by Myanmar security forces. Myanmar's government accused the insurgents of trying to undermine peace efforts in Rakhine state. But human rights groups have accused the army of carrying out massive human rights abuses, including killings, rape, and burning down more than 1,000 homes and other buildings. Myanmar is overwhelmingly Buddhist, but about 1 million Rohingya Muslims live in the northern part of Rakhine. The government refuses to recognize them as a native ethnic minority and says they are mostly illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. Amid the spike in tensions, the United Nations has pulled all non-essential staff from the area. Yesterday, Pope Francis, who has previously criticized atrocities against the Rohingya, appealed for an end to the persecution. The Vatican says he'll visit both countries in late November.
Back locally, a veteran member of the Housing Authority says the age of a public housing estate is not the main criterion when it comes to redeveloping it. Stanley Wong stressed that building safety and cost efficiency are more important factors to consider in redevelopment decisions. The government plans to demolish and rebuild 2 blocks of a housing estate built in the 1970s and 80s, which will provide 3 times as many public rental units. Under the plan, Mei Tung Estate in Wong Tai Sin will be demolished in 2020 in a redevelopment project that's expected to be finished in 2027. The Housing Authority hopes to put some 1,900 rental units on the market with the buildings, which will be double the height of the current 8-storey blocks, but the units may be smaller. Mei Tung House was built 45 years ago, while Mei Po House is 34 years old. But questions have been raised about why older estates like Model Housing Estate in Quarry Bay, which is over 60 years old, is not on the list of 22 estates to be given a facelift. Officials stressed Mei Tung and Mei Po houses, which are relatively young, were chosen because they met 4 criteria: the building structure, cost effectiveness, reception resources and redevelopment potential.
Rebuilding these 2 blocks will bring along roughly about, in today's term, we bring about 1,900 public housing units, and that's much more than the 650, around about 650 units today.
According to Housing Authority figures, as at the end of June, there were about 150,200 applicants waiting for public rental housing, who have to wait an average of 4.7 years to get a flat. Wong could not rule out a longer wait.
Any of these reconstruction projects will unavoidably take a number of units from new constructed units for allocation to the waiting list, and therefore the average waiting time will unavoidably affected, and therefore we had to conduct all the reconstruction projects very carefully to make sure that they will not substantially affect the waiting list, the family who have been waiting earnestly on the waiting list.
Wong added that the Mei Tung Estate residents could also be easily rehoused in the same area. A concern group rallied outside the MTR Corporation's headquarters in Kowloon Bay today, accusing its advertisements for the high-speed rail link to Guangzhou of being misleading. The co-location concern group pointed out that the ads were promoting a 48-minute journey to Guangzhou. But after studying nearly 300 trips in the past week, they found that the 48-minute journey actually refers to Guangzhou South Station, not the commercial area around Guangzhou East Station as shown in the video. The 2 stations are a 30-minute train ride apart, which means that the 48-minute journey would actually take over an hour. All right, you're kicking off with some footy tonight.
Yeah, footy and